Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll follows Alice, a curious young girl, as she falls into a strange and whimsical world full of bizarre characters and peculiar logic. Here is a more detailed retelling. Alice is feeling bored and drowsy while sitting with her sister by a riverbank. Suddenly, she spots a white rabbit in a waistcoat, muttering about how he's late for a very important date. Intrigued by this talking rabbit, Alice decides to follow him. She tumbles down a long, winding rabbit hole and finds herself in an unfamiliar place full of unusual sights. As she falls, she notices cupboards and bookshelves floating by, leading her to wonder how deep this rabbit hole might go. Eventually, she lands softly and finds herself in a corridor lined with locked doors. In the middle of the hall stands a glass table with a tiny golden key on it, along with a bottle labeled "Drink Me." Alice drinks from the bottle and suddenly begins to shrink, small enough to fit through a tiny door that she unlocks with the key. Peering through, she sees a beautiful garden, but realizes she's forgotten to take the key with her. She eats a cake labeled "Eat Me," hoping it will help, but it causes her to grow very tall instead, nearly filling the entire room. Frustrated, Alice goes through several transformations in size, which only adds to her confusion. After managing to enter the garden, Alice begins to explore Wonderland and encounters a host of peculiar creatures. Her first encounter is with a group of animals, including a dodo bird and other creatures who are trying to dry off after swimming in a pool of Alice's tears from when she was overgrown. The animals engage in a nonsensical race to dry off, where everyone wins but no one gets any prize, adding to Alice's bewilderment. Alice soon meets the caterpillar, who sits on a mushroom smoking a hookah. The caterpillar is rather gruff, but offers her some advice, albeit in the form of riddles. He tells her that one side of the mushroom will make her grow larger, and the other will make her smaller. Alice nibbles pieces of the mushroom, experimenting with her size until she feels comfortable enough to continue exploring. Next, Alice encounters the Cheshire Cat, a grinning, disappearing cat who gives cryptic advice about navigating Wonderland. He explains that everyone in Wonderland is mad, including himself and even Alice. He then vanishes, leaving only his wide, mischievous grin behind, which gives Alice an eerie feeling, but also sparks her curiosity to explore further. Her journey brings her to a bizarre tea party held by the Mad Hatter, the March Hare, and the sleepy Dormouse. This mad tea party is endless, with no beginning or end, as time has stopped for the group at 6 o'clock. The Hatter and the Hare babble nonsensically, arguing about riddles that have no answers and offering tea that never seems to end. Alice quickly becomes frustrated with their illogical behavior and storms off. Following this, she arrives at the Queen's croquet ground, where she encounters the Queen of Hearts. The Queen is obsessed with ordering beheadings, loudly shouting, "Off with their heads!" at anyone who displeases her. However, her orders are rarely followed. Alice realizes that the entire game of croquet is absurd. The mallets are live flamingos, the balls are hedgehogs, and the soldiers bend themselves into hoops. Despite the chaos, Alice manages to stay out of trouble, though she is bemused by the Queen's strange behavior. The Queen of Hearts then leads Alice to meet the Griffin and the Mock Turtle. The Mock Turtle, a rather melancholy creature, shares stories of his supposed education, including nonsensical subjects like reeling and writhing, and bizarre sports like lobster quadrille. Alice listens patiently, but the odd lessons and puns become more than she can bear. Alice's adventure reaches its climax in the chaotic trial of the Knave of Hearts, who is accused of stealing the Queen's tarts. The court is filled with various Wonderland creatures, including a jury of clueless animals and a judge who is none other than the King of Hearts. Witnesses are called, but none provide useful evidence. The trial's logic becomes increasingly absurd, with evidence that makes no sense and characters who testify with nonsensical statements. The Queen once again yells for everyone's heads to be chopped off, including Alice's. Finally, Alice can't take any more nonsense. She stands up to the Queen and the court, calling them all nothing but a pack of cards. In that moment, the whole court of cards rises up and comes flying at her. Just as Alice is about to be overwhelmed, she wakes up and realizes that she has been dreaming. She is back by the riverbank with her sister, who listens to Alice's tale with amusement. Though back in the real world, Alice reflects on her adventure and realizes it has left a lasting impression. She considers the strangeness and wonder of Wonderland, pondering what it means to grow up and the beauty of imagination. Carroll's story is an enchanting exploration of the absurdities of life, where logic is turned on its head, and nothing is quite as it seems. Through Alice's adventure, readers are encouraged to question, laugh, and embrace curiosity in a world that doesn't always make sense.